Hello everyone, welcome to, hi, my name is Austin Kwasinski, and today we're here for a special Sunday Family Arts. We're going to be taking a look at some Winter Wonderland paintings using watercolor and crayon resist. So we're going to make these into Christmas cards today. They're perfect for your loved ones to give on this holiday season, and then there's a blank space where you can sign and put whatever you need to put. So today I'm going to show you some of the materials first, and then we're going to dive right into this. So some of the materials that we're going to need are some water. So I already have some water along with my watercolor paint here. I'm going to be using stuff that's coming right out of the tubes, but you can use any additional watercolor paint that you may have around your household. We're going to need some watercolor paint, multimedia paper. So I'm using this paper right here. I think it's actually 11 by 14, but then what I did is I folded it and cut it in half so we have these nice shapes. So I can show you how we actually make the cards itself. We're going to need paintbrushes and then a white crayon. This is going to be important for getting our kind of Winter Wonderland look. See it with the white trees here. And also any additional colors. So say if you want to add some more pop to it, I have a little bit of yellow in this example here. So you can totally do that as well. And then some table salt as well. I have my table salt here, and this gives some really cool effects. So what happens is when you lay in the table salt, it starts to absorb any watercolor that may be on the paper, and it starts to get this really nice pilling effect. Let's see if I can zoom in here, get some really cool stuff. So that's what the salt does, and we're going to be taking that together, and we're going to make some cards. So let's get started. So I've already taken my 11 by 14 paper. I'm pretty sure it was that size, and I've actually split it in two. So what I did is I folded it, and then right down the middle I made two separate pieces. So what I'm going to do to actually make the cards are I'm going to fold it again one more time, and I'm going to make sure that they're lining right on the edge here, and then put a nice crease down. What I like to do as well is I like to run my nail down just so it gets a nice sharp edge here. And you may have a little bit of extra stuff there. That's okay, you can just rip it off like so. And that'll be a good new, or cut it off with scissors. It's totally up to you. So we have one here, and then if we do this again the second time, we have two cards that we can actually play with and make. So there we go. There's one. I'm gonna fold it on the other end here, like so. Have another one here. There you go. So what I like to do is to make these cards super clean. I like to actually use some masking tape. Now this wasn't required, but I like the way that the final end product actually looks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask the edges of my paper here. And since we already have that fold in place, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it out like this. And then I'm going to put and make a border. You can make it however big you want. I'm going to do maybe an inch. Maybe less than an inch. We'll see how it plays. Half an inch. Then I'm going to take again and go on this side like so. And what this is going to do is this is actually going to create a really great surface for painting on top of. So I'm actually taping it right to the table. You don't necessarily have to do that, but that way our paper isn't going to be moving all sorts of places. So let's do one more on this side here, like so. And then another one here. All right. So one of the reasons why I actually went ahead and made some extra copies of my paper is that I took some of them like so, and this is going to be great for if I need to test out my watercolor before I actually apply it onto my paper. So we're going to save that for later, but for now what we're going to do is we're going to actually make our design. So this is where you're going to have to kind of really hone in and look at the drawing, because we're going to be actually drawing in white, so it might be a little bit hard to see. So let's go ahead and we're going to do our tree, shall we? So you're not actually going to see what I'm doing. I don't think it's going to show up on camera at all, but that's okay, because what we're going to do is we're going to actually draw in our white here. Now you can find an image online of, say, like a certain landscape that you may like, or you can make one completely your own. Totally up to you. But what's the beauty about actually doing this type of work is that, you know, it's almost kind of like a surprise. You don't know what you're going to get. And that's kind of the main reason why I have multiple pages, because you know, the results may vary, and we might want to say, oh, this isn't quite something that I wanted it to look like, so I might actually change it later. Alright, so I'm going down. What I'm adding is some nice hills to get a nice varied landscape here. And I know you can't see it on camera, but it will show, I promise you. I'm going to add a second tree, just like in my example, up top. And with trees, you know, I'm starting to do these pine trees, so I'm starting with really small bushes on top, and then as I start to get to the bottom, they start to flare out more and more. So that's something to keep in mind. There you go. I got 2 trees already in the works here. Now let's see what else. So, like I said, for any additional materials, one of the things that I said is that we can use any different color. So I'm doing white because I specifically want the trees to be white. But what I can do now is I can actually say I want to add certain colors and pops to it. I can actually add color on top of it. And what's going to be really cool is when we start to go over this, is that that color is actually going to show through in the piece itself. I'm also going to do one of the big snowflakes like this. Like so. Let's go side to side. I'll go again. So doing this, you can kind of see what's happening already, but at the same time, it's still kind of a surprise because we're going to add that watercolor afterwards, and the crayon is actually going to resist. It's going to be form almost like a wall where the watercolor can't actually push through. So it's going to be really, really neat. So I'm just going to finish up my snowflake up on the side. I'll put this over here just so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm drawing and what the kind of final image may look like. It's going to be pretty similar to that one. So I'm going to go here. There you go. I got my snowflake. I'm wondering if I want to add anything else. I'm going to do some little snowflakes, but maybe I'm going to add some stars as well. And I'm just going to layer it all around. So let's add some stars here. And this is where you're going to be seeing it. We're going to add one over here. Let's see. Even for me too, sometimes it's hard to see where I've already put marks. But that's okay. Alrighty. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get out my watercolor paint, and I'm going to get my spare sheet that I mentioned earlier. And this is going to be really great for testing. I'm going to move this out of the way here. I can put this up top maybe. And I'm actually going to test out some of my watercolor before I actually start painting. So with the type of watercolor that I am using, I have some that are already in like kind of like a watercolor wash, but I'm also going to have one that's a little bit more concentrated. That's way I can pull in between the two. So let's see. I might actually just do it on this little sheet here. All right. So I'm going to see what this looks like first. I kind of like the look of that, so let's go ahead and put that layer on. Like so. All right. So we're already starting to get that layer. And as you can see, we're starting to actually see what's coming into play here, which is super cool. And then I'm going to start adding some reds here too. I'm going to test it on here first. See, it's a little bit light. A little bit light on my page here. So I'm actually going to, I'll do it over here so you guys can see it better. There we go. So I'm going to do that one over here. Perfect. And they're going to start to mesh together and make this really cool colors. Now, so the colors that I'm actually choosing to do for this project, I'm doing this nice blue and this red, and they're really going to complement one another. Last time what we did was that we did, there you go. Last time what we did for Sunday Family Arts, we talked about warms and cools colors. So this is a really good principle, and it's going to start to mix and match here. So I'm going to get out my salt. You could do this earlier on, but the salt is only going to work if the watercolor is actually wet. So I'm going to keep it ready to go here. Going to get that nice and that's really strong. So I think it's going to work. So I'm going to have salt in hand, salt in one hand, and then my watercolor in another. Let's take a look. Yes, that's going to be perfect. Okay, so we're starting to get, and I'm just going to sprinkle some salt in there. And you'll start to see the effects later on, but it's only going to work if it's actually wet there. There you go. Let's add some more red. I think we're lacking some red here. All right. There you go. I want it to be a little bit more concentrated. Let's take a look. Ah, there you go. Add some more red. Add some just in case I lost some pigment there. Oh yeah, that's a way stronger red. Cool. Add some more in there. And as you can see, that snowflake that we put in is really starting to show up. You can go over top of it however you want. One thing to note about watercolor is that the more you put down, watercolor works kind of like in layers. So the more that we're putting down on one thing, the more it's going to kind of show up. We're going to add a little bit more. There we go. So we're going to kind of let that dry and see what that kind of comes out to. So this is kind of a first test of what we're doing. As you notice, see if I go over top of the watercolor with the crayon. I'll show you what happens. See, it doesn't really show up. See, I'm going over top of it and we're not really seeing anything. It's just getting waxy. So that's a note, is to kind of plan out your drawings beforehand and really kind of let it shine at first, and we can kind of test it out. And then once we start to get something that we really like, then we can go over. So this is just starting to dry now. And as you can see, the salt is starting to absorb the watercolor, and once it's actually dry, what's going to happen is the salt's just going to kind of fall off, and you're going to see this really kind of cool pilly effect. So I'm going to let that dry a bit, and what I'm going to do is, we have an extra one, so I'm going to do another one actually. And I'm going to clear this up because there's a lot of salt in the way, but that's totally cool. So let's clear up my space a little bit, and I'm going to get ready for the next one. So let's take this off here. And this is still technically drying, and as you can see, if I lift up, some of the water is going to go a little bit. So I'm going to actually take this, and I'm just going to move it over to the side for now, and then near the end we'll do the big reveal. Alright, so let's do one more, shall we? So let's take this. And go over. Same thing, we're just going to keep adding this masking tape again because it's really useful for making a nice clean border on our image, like so. So now that we got the first one, and I highly recommend that we do this more than once, because when I attempted it for the first time, I wasn't quite happy with the results, but you know, adding different types of washes and different colors, you're going to get a lot of different effects each time you do this. And you'll get a better understanding of how the paint works and how things will start to bleed in with one another. Okay, so same thing. I'm going to take my white crayon, and then, so I might make this one a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is, maybe I'm just going to do like a nice cottage here. So I have actually I have a better thing of crayons here. So I'm going to take crayons, let's do something that's kind of like a brown color. Which one's this? Bittersweet. Okay, maybe something like this will be better. Mahogany, we'll try mahogany, see what that looks like. And then kind of like maybe like a red roof type thing. Again, this is all about experimentation. We'll see how it actually looks like in the final thing. But maybe what I'm going to do here is, this one's going to kind of show up better too. So we're just going to do that roof coming in here. Like so. And this one you can definitely see a little bit better here. And you can kind of color that in if you want to. And then I'm going to use that yellow again, and I'm going to add little windows. You can kind of do this however you want, right? I'll color something in fully and you'll kind of see the effect of what that does. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little wood there, like so. Do a little chimney or something like that. Totally up to you. But I still want to add that white because the white is going to get that snowbank, which is really what I want here. So the more you add of it, the more it's going to kind of show up in the final piece here. We could even do a snowman if you want. So let's do a snowman actually. And I'm going to see if I have a black as well. I don't think I do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a blue hat instead. So again, it's really hard to see what I've already drawn, but I'm just going to do a larger circle, a medium circle, small circle. And we'll have two arms like that. We'll have little buttons here. And then for the hat, I think what we're going to do is I'm going to do a nice yellow around that hat there. And of course we need an orange nose. There you go. Okay, cool. So I got that in the way. So I'm still going to add those trees because I really like the way they look. Right. So this is a really fun project. You can be kind of crazy with it. It doesn't need to be. I'm going to do another tree in the back of the house too. And I think what I might do is I might have a lamp post here. There you go. Something like that, and we're starting to build out our scene. Got those two trees there. Anything else I might want to add? We can add a moon as well. I really like the way the moon looks, just like a nice solid yellow shape here. Okay, and then let's again add a bunch of different snowflakes to really get this cool effect here. I'm going to use that yellow, add stars. So this one you can kind of see better, or more so better than before, right? I'll add stars here. I just noticed it's a little bit down, so what I'm going to do is actually going to pick it up for you guys. Just move it up. Move it up just so you can see it a little bit better. There you go. That's a little bit more in frame. Alrighty. So let's get started with the watercolor. Again, I'm going to use the same colors. It doesn't have to be these colors. You can totally change it up if you want. But these are the ones that I had on me at the time, so I think they'll work better. And this is pretty much dry, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually flip over my page that I was using to test my watercolor and see what it was going to look like. So let's take another look, shall we? There you go. That looks pretty good. Again, I'm going to grab some salt. Have it at the ready, so when I start to add this on top of it, let's see. I can start to sprinkle little salt drops like so. And as you can see, the house is going to be blue, so if you wanted to, you could totally fill that in, but you don't have to. Totally up to you and your personal preference. Same thing with the snowman. As you can see, this is great to do tests with because it's like, oh, okay, now I know if I want to do this later, I might want to fill in that snowman, so it's a nice solid shape. I get that red out and ready. Oh, it's a really nice red, actually. Perfect. There you go. You can see that red's really blending in with the red that we did for the house on top. I'm going to start to kind of layer this a little bit. See, I just wanted to show you this example of why the white looks so much better as far as, say, other colors. I think the other colors look much better when they're nice and solid. So there you go. I'm trying to get rid of some of it so you can kind of see the snowman a little bit better. So making small little adjustments here and there. And I think going back, I would have probably made the house a bit more blue just so you can really see those shapes. Something like that. All right. So I think the other one's dry now, so let's actually take a look and see how that turned out. Let's move everything over here. Do some housekeeping. While this dries. All right, so we have this image here. What I'm going to do is take the borders off, like so. And as you can see, there's still some little salt droplets on here. Just shake them off as long as it's dry, because if it isn't, it's going to start to move some of the paint around. I think for the most part, some of it's pretty dry there. Let's take this one here. Sometimes on paper, it will sometimes bleed into it, so just got to make sure, like as you can see right here, that's what happened. Just make sure that when you're putting down the masking tape that it's nice and flat, so we get a nice clean edge there. And I also like to pull, I don't pull straight down, I like to pull a little bit off to the side, and that's going to get a nice clean border like so. All right, let's take a look at this. So as you can see, we got a nice Winter Wonderland card here, and this is a really cool gift for anybody because it's handmade, and again, you can sign it and leave a nice lovely message for any of your loved ones. So this is super cool, and this is something that, you know, doesn't take too much time to actually do, and you get some really cool effects. As you can see, I'm going to zoom in here a bit. Right over here, you can see what happened when the salt was on there. It started to really separate. There's still some salt on there, but you can start to see where it starts to push away some of the watercolor. And then the other one is a little bit wet, but we'll pull it out as well. So again, start to pull off those sides. And I think going back, I would have colored the full house in crayon to give it a nice, more full effect. Just putting away all that excess tape here. There you go. And the last one here. Awesome. And this is the final result of this one too. So again, you know, this is all about experimenting. I really like how, with the background, how well the trees pop out. But again, I think if I were to do another one, I would actually fill in that house and fill in that snowman, because he's just dying for some more attention there. So I think that's what I would do in the future. So let's pull up all our cards and then see. As you can see, one of the main things I want to point out is how different each of the washes are, even though we used the same colors to make them. We're using the same colors essentially, but you get very different results, and especially depending on what is your underlying background picture as well. So guys, this has been Sunday Family Arts, and this is how to make your own Winter Wonderland cards. This is perfect for anybody that you want to give a special gift this holiday season. I thank you all for joining me, and I hope you have a wonderful holidays.